It is October 31st, so it's Halloween. This is my day 2 entry, and when I was thinking about, this whole challenge, the one thing that came up multiple times yesterday was the topic of emotional abuse. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about what emotional abuse isn't, because I think we use that term too lightly these days, and it really minimizes just how harmful it is. I'm going to talk about what it is. I'm going to talk about how it feels from my personal experience. And then I'm going to maybe talk about how to get out of it, how to stop it, how to change that cycle of emotional abuse. So, first of all, emotional abuse is not just arguing. It's not someone being brutally honest with you. It's not someone reacting after you've hurt them. That they're allowed to have their reaction if they're feeling hurt. And emotional abuse is not just yelling. People yell at each other all the time, and that is not what emotional abuse is. Being firm in what you have to say. It's not disagreeing with your partner. It's not standing your ground. These are all just things that I've heard of as described as emotional abuse, but they aren't. What emotional abuse is, and this is the difference, is it's based out of wanting to control another person. So it looks more like manipulative behaviors. Maybe you're telling somebody if they, act a certain way, then you'll leave them. Or if they don't do what you want them to, then you're going to withhold affection from them or give them the silent treatment. These are all ways that you're emotionally controlling somebody, right? It is very similar to physical abuse in the control aspect, but you're not using actual physical means by which to control people. You're using emotionally, psychologically manipulative techniques. So even constantly asking someone, where have you been? Where have you been? Where have you been? Where have you been? You're trying to control them. Shaming someone for getting upset at you when you're called out on something that you've done wrong, and saying how dare you say that to me? I've done nothing but these things to you. Like I said, disagreement is not emotional abuse. But, not allowing somebody to share their point of view with you and sort of making them feel bad for having that point of view is. The threat of alienation is a big one. Like threatening somebody that you will leave unless they do exactly what you tell them to. My personal experience with emotional abuse felt very much like I could never do anything right. Like in the beginning of that relationship, it was very grandiose and a love bombing, you would call it. But as time went on and maybe arguments came up, if I didn't adhere to the specific way that he was looking for or wanted me to, or needed me to behave in, it was met with a lot of shaming me, making me feel less than, withholding information from me. I felt very much like in the pit of my stomach, like I was just, something was wrong. And he would never fully admit to it. It always felt like, maybe am I doing something wrong? I'm a very intelligent person, and this is something that I've fell for. And so emotional abuse is not a sign that you didn't pay close enough attention. It just speaks to the highly manipulative nature of what emotional abuse is. I didn't just become intelligent the day that I decided to leave that relationship, right? It was just very, very confusing at the time because you're constantly hoping to get that love back from this person, and they're actually promising you maybe if you did this, things would be different for you. Maybe if you did things the way I wanted you to, things would be different for you. So, but the reality is like they don't want to give that back to you. What they want is to control you. So the moment you start to back away, then they say, all these romantic things like, let's go on vacation, let's do this thing. I'm seeing you pull away. And as soon as you let down your guard again, then the abusive cycle goes on. That's why they call it a cycle, because it's like a hamster wheel. It's not always so black and white. It's not always so like you're doing these things wrong and I'm not. Sometimes the even more like insidious version of that is, yes, I'm doing some things wrong and I'll work on that, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for this. And so you think, oh, well, they are willing to admit that they're doing some things wrong, but they're never actually working on them. There are no changes being made whatsoever. But this is another manipulative tactic to suck you in a little bit and say like, oh look, see, like I'm also admitting that I'm doing things wrong, so now you should do what I'm telling you to do. So a way to get out of it, number one, draw a boundary. Draw a boundary and say, you cannot manipulate me anymore. You cannot talk to me like that anymore. What you're doing is a form of trying to control me, and I won't engage with you in these conversations anymore. Or get the support you need. Get support from someone else who's been through it. That's all I have for you. And just know, too, that it's a process. Um, Emotional abuse is something that you may take years to get over. It's definitely there to make you question your instincts, to make you question your personal boundaries, your truth. So don't be surprised if even when you're out of this emotionally abusive relationship, you're still questioning yourself. That's what emotional abuse does. It means to take your personal control away from you and insert someone else's in. So then you begin to question, am I capable of managing my own life? It's a very harmful type of abuse. So making sure that we're not using it lightly when we're describing our experiences is important, because people who've actually been through it can suffer a great deal, and we don't want to minimize that um, for them. Day 2, that's all I got for you. Happy Halloween.